first performer goes way, 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 way back with me. Her name is Gina Bling. And we used to tour together with a little project called Team Gina. And she's here to share a story with you. Gina Bling! Well, we do go way back. I feel like the last time I held a microphone was on a stage was with that one, like over 10 years ago. So, okay, I'm gonna read a little something. But I just moved to LA and I have a sinus infection, which I feel like is just like a jump in to like being an Angelino, so please bear with me if I hack and cough. I've been a massage therapist since 2007 and an esthetician since 2010. Before that, I was a social worker in the Bronx, serving the HIV-positive sex worker community. In recent years, doing massage has been harder on my shoulder, but I could give facials and do waxing with very little stress on my joints all day long. With aesthetics, I still get to be present for my clients' lives, which has really been my professional kind of common denominator. I consider it an almost sacred honor to hear about my clients' lives. I love my job. I'm not my client's friend, I'm not their therapist, but I'm a confidential third party that they get to see every 3 weeks for 30 minutes while I wax their vagina. So I realize the vagina is inside, and what I'm really doing is waxing a vulva, but like, who wants to say vulva like 5 times a day? Like, it's, I don't want to. Right, and if you don't know what a Brazilian waxing is, it's when you remove all the hair from the bottom, and the front. You can leave a little strip if you like, if that's your thing. I get to have my own reactions to what they tell me, and I don't really hold back. I frequently say things like, "Ooh, that's fucked up, you deserve better," or "I'm so proud of you, you should be so happy," or "Look how far you've come, you've experienced so much growth." I'm just kidding that that's kind of a pun, because I do stuff with hair. That wasn't even intentional. Many of these relationships have actually been some of my longest. I've seen people through college, getting married, having babies, getting divorces, moving away, moving back. It is just a joy. So when I asked Gina if I could speak tonight, my first thought was, I've heard a lot of low points, bottoms in people's lives, while I'm literally waxing their bottoms, so. Also, I'm a femme bottom, but like, so what? Like, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. When I worked in Silicon Valley, I had a client, Padma, who was married to a terrible, terrible man. She and their 3 kids were financially dependent on him. In almost 20 years of marriage, he sexually assaulted her almost weekly. She would say, I tell him I don't want to, but he says we haven't had sex in a few days and he wants to. He doesn't care that I'm tired. Then I tell him, you know you're just getting a shell of a person. And he doesn't say anything, and I wait for him to finish. I mean, what do you do with that? I mean, really, here I am with this very vulnerable body part, right? Doing things to it, removing hair, it's consensual, but still, I can't help but think, is she getting this for him? Is she doing this for her? It's not really my business to know, but it is my business to listen when Padma talks and ask how I can support her. This story does have a happy ending, though. Right before I moved to LA 3 months ago, I saw her for the last time, and she said that she was finally going to leave her husband and confided in this couple that had been friends of theirs. One was a lawyer, and the other was a business partner. He also beat their kids because he was a real piece of shit, and that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. The lawyer was all about helping Padma get the divorce filings going, and the business associate filled Padma in on a little tip that her husband was about to have a huge deal go through worth about $11 million. So everyone agreed to wait until this deal was done and then filed for divorce. Yeah, we hugged it out, right? And I thanked her for being such a great client at the end of her last appointment with me, and then I whispered into her ear, "Take that motherfucker to the cleaners and don't ever look back." I had another client, Sue, who had just gotten married. She was in her early 60s, and this was her 3rd marriage, and she was over the moon for her husband. He was also in his 60s, but he had been a lifelong bachelor. She started seeing me shortly after they got married, and over the course of the next 3 years of seeing her, I would get updates on their relationship and how his never having been in a real relationship before was being played out through selfish, inconsiderate, and poor choices. He would make big decisions without consulting her. He took a job in her industry based on her putting in a good word, and then burned a whole bunch of her professional bridges. And one time he was a real creep to me, going on and on about how fucking hot that scene in American Hustle is when Amy Adams is banging that guy in the bathroom. I was was like, oh, this is so gross. She began to feel more and more isolated and then said to me one day, I would rather be alone with myself than be alone in my marriage. That's not a low point. I don't know what it is. I also get to hear about triumphant moments while I'm slathering wax on and ripping it off as fast as possible. It's not all doom and gloom about cis lady straight marriages. I get to hear about women kicking ass professionally, starting their own businesses. One of them hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. One had me laugh crying so hard at her labor and delivery story that I had to tell her to stop because I couldn't see which direction to put the wax on. I get women all the time who are naked from the waist down apologizing to me that they didn't shave their legs while I'm literally holding their butt cheeks taut to try to get the perfect pull. Wax. But I really love this conversation. I'm sorry, I didn't have time to shave my legs before our appointment. Girl, I celebrate you. If you want a bald vagina and hairy legs, okay. If you want perfectly sculpted eyebrows and underarm hair, you do you. I'm not here to judge. I'm simply here to provide a service that makes you feel your best. And I can't tell you how many times that blows their mind. In massage therapy school, which I started before I became an esthetician, we were taught to be present for all bodies without judgment. You can't really shame someone's body and then say, give me money to take care of your body. That doesn't really work. So why would I start shaming someone during an aesthetic service? This idea is a core value of how I run my aesthetics practice, but it is also at odds with it. I knew I wanted to expand the amount of services I could provide for people, which is why I went back to esthetician school, but I also had a hard time making that decision. Am I becoming a bigger part of the machine that expects an unobtainable beauty standard? Am I still a feminist if I rip hair out of people's bodies? Ultimately, I thought, well, if people are going to spend money on these services, they might as well do it with me. Becoming a waxer ultimately gave me access to a few women who hadn't really had the opportunity to explore feminism critically. I mean, some had. I had some pretty right-on, women's studies professors who were really fun. But for some, a lot of stuff that I was saying, they were hearing for the first time. Hairy legs and a bald vagina? I can do both? I have lived most of my life as not queer enough to really belong in a queer kids club, but I'm definitely not straight. Shout out to my husband's vagina. When he and I are out in the world, we are invisible to other queers. I have rarely disclosed the details of my queer identity to my clients, mostly out of fear of making them uncomfortable. I don't want anything but a professional interaction with their vaginas. Plus, when I make the experience about me, the space isn't theirs anymore. And my treatment room isn't the place for me to practice my own vulnerability. When I really connect with a client and they tell me their secrets or wishes or low points, it reminds me that vulnerability is okay, and in fact, it's the good stuff. This reminder fuels me to open up to the people in my personal life, which keeps my low points in perspective. So, thank you, client whose butt I get to wax. Your bits are completely exposed to me, so why not emotionally expose everything else? Thank you.